Hi, and welcome to the show. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/podcast. Today, welcome back, Michael Pessman. He's a gerontologist. Today's Kevin MD article is Why What You Do in Midlife Matters Most. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. A pleasure to be here again.
All right. So tell us what your latest article is about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You mentioned the title, Why What You Do in Midlife Matters Most. As a gerontologist, one of my main concerns is people living their longest life, their happiest life, their most fulfilling life. And I'm constantly thinking about ways people can age well. As you know, modern medicine has made so many advancements. I've talked about this before. Statins in particular are keeping people much alive much longer and much more able. And aging in place is a big thing. People want to be well to age in place in their house. And in order to do that, there are certain things that need to be done. So starting in your 40s can really determine how you end up later in life. So, I have a lot of friends in their 40s that don't think they need to go to a doctor every year. And it's critical, as you know, that you're a doctor, getting that blood work done to see if you need a statin or your blood sugar is high, and addressing those issues in your 40s can really affect your quality of life later in life. And so just diving into some of that research, I find very interesting, and I like to be a voice to let people know that it is important to those 40s and 50s. I'm 55 myself, so I take my own advice, Kevin, and follow my doctor's results from my blood work. But yeah, just for example, what I found out, strength training for just 30 to 60 minutes a week, once a week, can reduce early death by up to 20%. So that to me seems amazing. And this is a new stat that was in 2025. So personally, that motivates me. I can commit to 30 minutes, maybe even twice a week. So maybe I get even a higher percentage. But just letting people know that, I'm very passionate about this article. Yeah.
So, strength training. So, we hear
Yeah.
a lot about that by
Yeah.
a lot of the health gurus.
Right.
And tell us exactly what you mean by that. And does that necessarily require going to the gym? Can you just do strength training from the comfort of your own house?
Well, that's a very good question, Kevin. And you can do strength training just from your house. You can buy dumbbells, like even 5 or 10 pounds, and put YouTube on TV for 30 minutes, find a free workout and go to it. I work for a place called Mather in Evanston, Illinois, where we have Zoom classes. There's one called Better Balance, it's for older adults, but it's a workout. I try to do it myself. I have to take a few breaks. But as you know, maintaining balance in older age it just creates optimal health. Falls and hips and knees and everything that can be complicated. So balance is very important. But yeah, the strength training. So this is something that I have done. I have bought my own dumbbells. I have a gym in the building where I live, but I prefer to work out in my living room. So I have YouTube on my Roku TV, and I'm doing this myself. And again, it's not an intense workout, but it's more than I was doing before. And I do this 30 minutes twice a week, and it gets the blood flowing in ways that I don't just by going downstairs, walking down the street. And just something as simple as that can really add years onto the rest of your life.
So you mentioned seeing your doctor regularly.
Yeah.
You mentioned statins. We mentioned
Mhm.
strength training.
Right.
What else can we do in midlife to help us as we age?
Well, I think connection. There's more and more research that having social connection is so important, not just isolating at home alone. Oftentimes, sometimes older adults feel that they want to do that, but getting out, whether that be a religious activity, whether that be a hobby. Where I work, we run art classes on Zoom for older adults, and seeing people be friends that don't live in the same city and enjoy an activity that keeps their brain active and engaged, and they create art that is amazing. I envision myself their age doing that. So just opportunities like that, looking at your senior center in your area, they oftentimes have classes, and pushing yourself to get outside of the box, to go do something that maybe you don't know anything about, or to meet people and just get out of your house and make those social connections. I also mentioned something in the article about neurodiversity. I don't know if you've heard that term. It's kind of a newer term. It is a one size does not fit all in aging, which means aging is deeply individual. A person's culture, race, gender, income, language, they all affect the aging process. And that means that different interventions will work different for these categories.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that aging research is being more inclusive, that is considering all of these facts. I've talked about this before. For example, African Americans have a higher risk of dementia. We don't know why. So they react to different treatments differently. So research should be geared towards them different ways than other races.
How about diet? What kind of diet tips can you share with us?
Oh, absolutely. The Mediterranean diet, hands down, has all the best research. Limiting fried foods. I myself am guilty of fried foods. I like French fries. I'm trying to limit that to once or twice a week. Eating fish twice a week that's not fried with olive oil is part of that Mediterranean diet. Nuts, vegetables, that has shown to be very effective, even for cognitive ability later in life.
Can you comment on protein? Protein is all the rage
Oh,
now.
it is.
You read the news and you just go to the supermarket, everything focuses
Yeah,
on the protein, and you get,
right,
protein enhanced bread, protein enhanced
right.
pasta, right? So tell us whether how important protein is or not.
Oh, absolutely, Kevin. That is in the article actually as well. No, protein is a factor because it limits the carbohydrates, and it is recommended for older adults to get as much protein as possible. People are not getting as much protein these days as they have in the past. So any way that you can add, especially if you like it. I bought some high protein products myself, Kevin. I don't like some of the taste. It's a kind of acquired, but there are some that I do like. So trying different options and sticking to your favorite ones, just making those meaningful decisions, the next right decision as you're grocery shopping, looking at some of the products. Bread, there are certain breads that have more protein, and there's one that I do like a lot. So absolutely. Yes, and it's more filling. When you eat more protein, you're not as hungry. So it leads to weight loss.
So how can someone actively cultivate a positive view at aging when there's so much in our culture that kind of sends the opposite message, right? So how can we cultivate that positive view?
Very good question. And perception is everything, right? How you perceive yourself as aging. I do address that a little bit in the article. I think personally, surrounding yourself with people who are positive in your life, people that will help you, people that you can give to, you can help them, and doing things that people find meaningful. For example, going to religious services, if a person finds that fulfilling, doing that, making that effort. And if you can't go in person, to do it maybe online. A lot of spiritual places do offer the virtual option as well. But really pursuing that, spending time with friends, making the effort to get together with family. Oftentimes family lives far, so you have to really plan in advance strategically for those visits.
And then one of the things you also mentioned is VR, right? Some cognitive benefits from VR games, right?
Right, right. Yeah, that's so exciting. As you know, I've worked in Alzheimer's research before. So, yeah, it's very exciting. And as a matter of fact, they've made a lot of advancements with some of the treatments with Alzheimer's. There's new medications out. I have a family member that was diagnosed in June. And because this person was early diagnosed, they have an option. It's a medication, it's an IV drip once a month that is supposed to stop the disease for 10 years. So we're going to see. So early diagnosis is very important with Alzheimer's disease. But yes, the VR, that is something that is new and it's very exciting. Some of the results are really promising. So anything that we can do to help the many people that are stricken with this disease, the better.
Now, tell me, as a primary care physician, I only have, as you know, 15 to 20 minutes, and I see a
Sure.
lot of people in that midlife stage. So if I were to
Right.
prioritize some of the advice that we're talking about today,
Sure.
what would you recommend first?
I would recommend asking, do you have a social group that you're actively engaged with? Maybe a card, if it's a male, maybe a card game on a Friday night or a Friday morning breakfast club. I would ask, are there social things that you get out and enjoy on a weekly basis? Are there hobbies that you have? And thank goodness they're seeing you as a PCP. Thank goodness they're in the office. That's a wonderful thing. I would also ask them about their diet. Maybe if they want some information about the Mediterranean diet as they age, that's recommended by so many really reputable institutions. And I would just ask them about their family. Do they have family? Are they connected with their family? Do they have chosen family?
Mhm.
Perhaps I myself have some chosen family members that are not blood related, but I consider them family, and just getting those details out of them during that visit.
We're talking to Michael Pessman. He's a gerontologist, and today's Kevin MD article is Why What You Do in Midlife Matters Most. Michael, let's enter some take home messages that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience.
Sure. I want to emphasize that it does not take much effort in your 40s and 50s to ensure the later decades in your life that you can add years to your life by just simple weekly changes to exercise, diet, and social connections.
Michael, as always, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and insight, and thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a good day.